Hi, and welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of KevinMD. Today on the show, we have Jessica Herrick. She's an infectious disease physician, and she wrote the KevinMD article, An Infectious Disease Physician Says, Stay the F at Home, and you can use your imagination as to what the F stands for. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me very much.
So we'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and your journey to where you are today?
Sure. So I am an infectious disease physician, as you just said. I did medical school at University of Nebraska, residency at University of Illinois, and then fellowship at NIH, where I trained under Dr. Fauci for one, and then came back to UIC to be an ID physician a couple of years ago. I actually normally study tropical medicine and parasites, but as the case with, I think, most physicians, we're all kind of dealing with COVID and not a ton else in the last 6 months or so.
So we're now speaking in the third week of August. Tell me what you're seeing in the community from an infectious disease standpoint.
We had really gone down, and I think in the last month or so, our cases have started to go up. And I will say I live in near Chicago, and I think our mayor and governor have just done a fantastic job. And I think it could be a lot worse, but we have seen that our cases got as low as 400 a day, maybe a month or 6 weeks ago, and now we're seeing about 2,000 a day.
And how close are we to a vaccine? You see Russia, for instance, they're producing a vaccine,
right.
And we have various options.
They claim
in phase 3 trials.
Right.
Some say that we're getting it by early 2021. Some say it's later on. So from, again, an infectious disease standpoint, what is some accurate information in terms of where we stand with vaccines?
Yeah, so definitely you are not the first person to ask me that. Whenever people ask me, or especially my family, my parents are asking me that question all the time. And my answer is always, listen to what Tony Fauci is saying. There's a lot of hope that we will have a vaccine soon. What soon means, I don't know. It could be as early as January. It could be more like the middle of next year, but I think definitely we are going to have a vaccine. We're all hoping that it will be as soon as we can get it.
And what are some of the challenges that vaccine makers are facing, especially on such an expedited timeline?
So, I actually think that, yes, the timeline is expedited, but I think that in a way, it's not as challenging as you would think. I think all of the resources that we can are being put towards this. And I think it's really kind of an example of what we can accomplish when we make things a priority. So, I mean, when you think about the history of vaccines and, how difficult they are to make, and then you think that within about a year, we'll have a vaccine for this brand new virus that we've never seen before, I think is sort of a thing. I mean, I've seen studies that say that up to 30 and maybe even higher % of people are already saying that they're not going to take a COVID vaccine. And so I think that's concerning.
Public health messaging has been an issue, and what you said about convincing people to take the vaccine really plays right into that. Right. Now, one of the things that Dr. Fauci excels in is really his healthcare communication and his public health communication.
Yes.
He's wonderful in terms of how he comes across on television.
He's very honest, and he's.
I'm a primary care physician, and you're an infectious disease physician. Now, what are some techniques that we can use to help overcome the opposition to public health messaging?
Oh man, if I had the answer to that, I would be able to make the world a much better place. I mean, I think all you can do is do what Tony Fauci does, which is to just be honest with people, set realistic expectations. And I think part of it is the world is so complicated and people are so busy, and this is an extremely complicated topic. And so I think there's some confusion that doesn't need to be there. Like, I'm sure you've heard people say, well, first you told me not to wear a mask. Now you're saying wear a mask. So what am I supposed to believe? And I think it's really the way to sort of fix that is just good communication. And well, yeah, initially they said don't wear a mask because we were worried about our mask supplies, not because we didn't think that masks prevent the spread of disease, right? And we didn't know how widespread it was in the community. So I think the more you can be like Fauci, the more you can be like Fauci and be honest and open and completely upfront and in communicating with people, I think the better, I think what we've seen is if people trust you, they're more likely to hear your message. So people trust Fauci, and I think that's why his messaging is so powerful.
Maybe we need a bumper sticker. Be like Fauci.
I know,
right?
that I should start that. That would be a business there.
So one of the things that clouds public health messaging is the amount of misinformation that's out there, especially perpetuated by social media and specifically
Absolutely.
Facebook.
Yes,
Now, again, what are
yes.
some things that we can do to mitigate that?
So it's very hard because I think part of the problem is that people look for evidence that fits what they already believe. So if you already believe that, the virus is a hoax, then you can find something on Facebook that says that. If you believe that the virus is real, you'll find obviously lots of things on Facebook that confirm that bias as well. I mean, it's such a tricky thing. I don't know if there's really an easy answer. I think we need, the more we can turn people into sort of critical thinkers and critical readers of social media, probably the better. That, just because you see one thing on social media obviously doesn't make it true. And you have to sort of think about the source, the, potential biases of the source, what other sources, if they back that up, if they don't. I mean, I think this is something that I think has become really important in sort of our modern world. And I'm sure there are people who their entire careers are focused on trying to solve these issues and address this really pandemic of misinformation that's been going around.
So let's now talk about your KevinMD article. An infectious disease edition says, stay the F at home. Now, for those who haven't read it, can you share the story behind why you wrote it and perhaps walk my audience through it?
As you can probably imagine by the fact that was my article, I have a child. So I have a 4-year-old. And like many people have children, I've read the book, Go the F to Sleep, which I think was narrated by Samuel Jackson. And it's all about, a lullaby to your child that lovingly says, please go the F to sleep. Yeah. So, I guess this was like relatively early in the pandemic. I think it was in March, late March or something. And that phrase kept kind of sticking in my head. And this was, long before the mask mandates or anything like that. And as the pandemic was just first taking off. And I think the message we were trying to get out there was, if you don't need to go out in public, don't go out in public. And this was hard, but like we really cut back on even going to the grocery store. So we would normally go to, the grocery store and to Costco every week and stuff like that. And we really started backing down on that. I think if you say it in a funny way, that has more impact than if you say it in sort of a dry way. So it's like people who watch The Daily Show or something like that are more educated about news stories. So I thought if you say it kind of, in a sort of memorable and funny way, then that message might penetrate a little bit more than sort of a dry scientific sort of recitation of data.
No, I agree with that. I think the variety of your messaging, I think that is one way to certainly help combat the misinformation, especially on social media. Last week, Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee for president, he wanted a national mask mandate. Now, what is your thoughts on that? And do you think something like that will be effective?
Yeah, so I think there's no doubt that it would be effective. And I think that would be a great thing. I mean, I keep, whenever I talk to family members about this, I keep going back to an interview I saw with Tom Hanks, and he was talking about his experience with COVID. And he said, how people talk about, oh, it's the least you can do. This is literally the least you can do. I, for the life of me, do not understand how this has become controversial. It's literally, I mean, as doctors, you always have this sort of, especially before you go to med school, you have this sort of hero dream that you're going to be this big lifesaver. All you have to do is literally put something over your face to potentially save a life. I cannot imagine why anyone would not do that. I truly do not understand. I think, I mean, I think about my mom was actually a bone marrow donor, and my mom's adorable, but she was so excited to be a bone marrow donor. And she was so thrilled and touched that she got to, help somebody in that way. And you think about what she had to do. She had to take medications. She had to undergo potentially painful tests, and she was willing to do that to potentially help someone. All we're asking people to do is wear a piece of cloth over their face. It's mind-boggling to me that there would be any sort of controversy.
We're talking to Jessica Herrick. She's an infectious disease physician, and she wrote the KevinMD article, Infectious Disease Physician Says, Stay the F at Home. Jessica, is there something that you've learned over the last few months that you know now that you wish you knew back before the pandemic started?
If I kind of want to go negative, I'll say that I was not prepared, and I was very surprised at how things that people who really understand medicine and understand what's going on, that we understand to be truth, that people not in the medical field can, with no experience, no, real, background in the field, can deny things as being truths. The other, if I'm going to go a little positive, since I just said something negative, I've just been so touched by the response. I guess, I mean, I haven't seen anywhere but my hospital, but at my hospital, the nurses, the social workers, the physicians, the residents, everybody was very honored to kind of be working during this time, because we all felt like, this is the kind of story you tell your grandchildren, that again, this is what you dream about when you go into medicine, is that you want to be able to make a difference. And I think no one who's a doctor and practicing right now, I don't think, can feel like we're not contributing to helping people.
Sure.
So.
And my final question, do you have a take-home message that you want to share with the KevinMD audience?
Well, so I would change it now to wear an effing mask, I guess would be if I were going to change, stay the F at home, I would probably title it now, in the world with what's going on, wear an effing mask. I think it's that simple.
Fantastic. Jessica, thank you so much for your time and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you very much.